and welcome to Utopia. This week's episode may be one of our most important episodes to date. It's about development versus conservation, state versus federal control of Utah's lands, and specifically about what effect shrinking the size of Grand Staircase-Escalante National Monument will have on the local economy. One of the big arguments from proponents of selling off our federal lands is that the designations of national parks or national monuments hurts the local economies. Well, let's take a closer look with the experts. Here's Sean King with that story.
Boulder, Utah, one of the last communities in the continental U.S. to get its mail by mule, is one of the most remote towns in the lower 48. Boulder and the neighboring town of Escalante is surrounded by some of the most exotic scenery in all of Utah and the United States. Since 1996, the year Grand Staircase-Escalante National Monument was designated, interest has steadily grown, and more people have come to see the waterfalls, arches, and slot canyons that make this place so unique. But recently, Grand Staircase-Escalante Monument has come under attack. There are people in positions of power who want to shrink the area that is designated as a monument.
The state of Utah, the legislature, and the governor have asked the federal government to take back the monument designation, or at least to take it down to about a tenth of what the lands currently are. So they're looking to go from 1.9 million acres to 200,000 acres.
The economic benefits of the designation of Grand Staircase-Escalante to the surrounding economy is measurable. And if we look at the past to be a predictor of the future, by examining businesses in Boulder and Escalante, Utah, we can see into the future to places like Blanding and Bluff, Utah, where the recent designation of the Bears Ears National Monument will have a financial impact on surrounding communities.
Well, across America, rural economies have suffered as agriculture has become consolidated and resource extractive industries have diminished. And that's a nationwide issue. We observed that the healthy communities are those that have thriving, diverse, locally owned business.
To understand the desire of some people to shrink the size of Grand Staircase-Escalante, we must travel a bit further back than 1996 to 1906, when Theodore Roosevelt signed the Antiquities Act into law. The act would allow a sitting president to establish areas to protect all historic and prehistoric sites on United States federal lands and to prohibit excavation or destruction. The Antiquities Act is why we have arches, Capitol Reef, Canyonlands, Zion, and Grand Canyon National Parks. But as with the Grand Canyon when it was designated, there has been a lot of griping over the years about the establishment of national monuments. One of the most often heard arguments from opponents to these national monument designations is that it will hurt the local economies because they cannot make a living from the land. But these designations do not eliminate traditional economic activity from the land. A national monument is much different than a national park in that ranching, mining, logging, and even drilling for oil is still permitted on many national monuments. This includes Grand Staircase-Escalante.
The custom and culture of Boulder, Utah, most recently, prior to the monument designation, was very agrarian, rural, ranching, and kind of community. When the monument was designated, there was a lot of fear, I think, for the local people that their way of life was under threat or under siege. In fact, for the ranching community, I think this monument is kind of a godsend because Their grazing permits are currently protected in perpetuity and are subsidized by the federal government.
Ranching would remain in place with the designation, but new businesses emerged: restaurants, lodging, guide services, gift shops, and art galleries.
I think, having lived here 17 years, I would say that the economy is actually kind of booming here, which is funny. I never thought it would, but particularly in the last 5 years, we've seen our business effectively double, which is a huge amount of growth. And it's not us only. I see it everywhere in the county.
I started here in 2000, and what I've seen is steady growth over the years. I'd say it's over the last 2 years, so after about 15 years of work for my guide business to really kick in and start to keep me quite busy.
Currently, I think in our county there's probably not a business, a construction company or a clinic or a school or a restaurant that isn't hiring. So we have lots of jobs and we have lots of work, and I would say, like, being of service to the people who come looking for a wilderness experience is a really meaningful way to make a living and have a business. Like, we try to really help people have a genuine wilderness experience, which is incredibly important for our humanity.
Don't go away. More Utopia after these messages from our sponsors.